Welcome to this explainer. I'm Dr. Chem, and today we're stepping right into the laboratory to witness a hidden microscopic battle for water happening inside plant cells every single day. We're going to take a stunning up-close microscopic journey to explore a truly dynamic world that's functioning all around us and, believe it or not, even right inside your own kitchen. Now, you might be wondering, why exactly do plants wilt? And hey, how does salt actually keep our food from spoiling? Well, we've all seen a sad, wilted houseplant, right? And we've all eaten a crunchy, salty pickle. But it turns out the exact same biological process connects that dying fern in your living room to the preserved foods sitting in your pantry. Let's dive in and see how. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the turgid plant cell, then define exactly what plasmolysis is. After that, we'll break down its stages and types, step inside the biology lab for a closer look, explore deplasmolysis and recovery, and finally zoom out to some real-world applications. All right, Section 1, the turgid plant cell, establishing the baseline. To really understand this, we have to start by establishing our baseline. What exactly keeps a healthy plant standing upright? The secret is turgor pressure. Imagine a massive central vacuole inside the cell, sometimes taking up like 80% of the room in there, just filling up with water. As it swells, it pushes the cytoplasm and that flexible plasma membrane really hard against the rigid outer cell wall. The wall fights back, resisting the pressure, so the cell doesn't just burst. This high-pressure, fully inflated state, that's what biologists call being turgid. When we look closely at fresh, vibrant red onion epidermis under the microscope, the cells are completely full. They're plump, packed tightly together, almost like paving stones on a street. The pinkish-purple fluid fills up the entire space inside. This is our beautiful, healthy baseline, where turgor pressure is maxed out and doing its job perfectly. Moving on to Section 2. What is plasmolysis? The stress test. So, what actually happens when we put these plump, happy cells through an extreme stress test? Well, that's when plasmolysis occurs. If you place the cell in a hypertonic, meaning highly concentrated, salty or sugary liquid, osmosis immediately kicks in. Water rapidly rushes right out of the cell's vacuole to try and balance out the surrounding environment. The rigid outer wall, it stays put, but the inside basically deflates like a punctured water balloon, literally peeling away from the cell walls. Which brings us to Section 3, stages and types, breaking down the shrinkage. This shrinkage doesn't just happen all at once. It's a progressive and honestly fascinating structural collapse. First up, we have incipient plasmolysis. This is where water just starts to flow out and the cell loses that tight firmness, becoming kind of flaccid. Next is evident plasmolysis, where the plasma membrane actually reaches its contraction limit and begins to visibly tear away from the cell wall. And finally, we hit final plasmolysis. At this stage, the internal contents have completely contracted into a free-floating spherical structure sitting right in the center of the cell. It's absolutely crucial to distinguish between the two main types of this process. Concave plasmolysis is essentially a reversible retreat. It forms these inward-curving, half-spherical pockets, where the cell is still desperately clinging to the wall. But convex plasmolysis, that is a total, irreversible collapse. The cell completely detaches, rounding off into a sphere. And once that complete detachment happens, there's no going back. The cell wall eventually collapses entirely, and the plant wilts and dies. Next up, Section 4, inside the biology lab, visualizing the evidence. Let's map out exactly how we visualize this evidence in the lab. We can track the entire transition from a normal, plump cell to a shriveled, plasmolized one, and then back again. Imagine the living protoplast inside those rigid outer walls. As it loses water, it shrinks down to a mere fraction of its original size, leaving these massive, empty gaps. And those gaps actually just fill up with the outside salty solution that seeps right through the porous cell wall. So how do we do this? We start by isolating living cells, like Elodea leaves, or pulling a super thin epidermal layer from a red onion. We observe the normal, turgid cells under a light microscope. Then, we introduce a hypertonic solution. We might carefully add a drop of something like a 2.5 molar sucrose solution. Almost instantly, we can observe exosmosis. Water rapidly exits the cell's selectively permeable membrane, rushing out to dilute that heavy concentration of sugar on the outside.
When you actually watch this happen under the microscope, it is mind-blowing. You can physically see the colorful cell contents pulling away from the rigid cell walls, leaving behind very noticeable gaps. Those once full brick-like shapes contract into jagged little islands. It is a spectacular visual representation of cellular dehydration. The rigid cell wall stays perfectly intact, while the living, breathing part of the cell basically cowers inside.
Now for Section 5, Deplasmolysis and Recovery, the Rescue. Now you're probably asking, is there any way to rescue these stressed out, shriveled cells? The answer is yes. By flooding the environment with pure distilled water, which is a hypotonic solution, we trigger something called deplasmolysis. The water molecules rapidly re-enter the cells. Osmosis essentially shifts into reverse. The central vacuole dramatically expands and the plasma membrane pushes firmly back against the wall, miraculously restoring full turgor pressure. Let's wrap things up with Section 6, Real-World Applications, zooming out. Stepping out of the microscopic world for a second, a lack of turgor pressure is something you've definitely seen in real life. It looks exactly like limp, sad, wilted vegetables that have lost all their cellular water. But here's a fun trick. If you toss some wilted lettuce into a hypotonic bath of cold, fresh water, deplasmolysis occurs. The cells drink it up, swell back up, and just like that, your salad regains its crisp crunch. But beyond just reviving your lettuce, plasmolysis is a real game changer out in the world. It's the exact mechanism behind why weedicides are able to kill unwanted plants. It also explains why coastal flooding is so devastating. When the ocean floods agricultural land, it deposits a ton of salt. That hypertonic, salty environment aggressively draws the water right out of the crop's roots and cells, inducing lethal convex plasmolysis. And here's the really wild part. That exact same cellular dehydration that kills weeds, it's literally one of our greatest, oldest tools for food preservation. Think about it. When you heavily salt meat or add a bunch of sugar to fruit to make jam, you are creating an extreme hypertonic environment. If a spoilage microbe lands on that food, the salt or sugar rapidly pulls the water completely out of the bacteria through osmosis. The microbe undergoes extreme plasmolysis and dies, which keeps your food safe to eat. So whether it's the crispness of a fresh vegetable, the tragedy of a flooded farm, or simply the science behind a salty snack, the whole shebang really comes down to the relentless, invisible movement of water across a membrane. I'm Dr. Chem, and I want to thank you for joining me on this microscopic journey today. Next time you see a wilted plant or bite into a crunchy pickle, ask yourself, what exactly are the cells doing right now?